So, hello to another sit-down video. And I should probably clean my glasses before I start. So hello to another video on my channel. Today it's a little sit-down video again. My last video that I posted was a little bit of an inspirational piece. I will link it up above. I hope you like it. I wanted to do these kind of videos for a long time and there will be other ones coming. I think the lessons that I mentioned in one of my last videos, I think I will try to work with them in that kind of way. I unfortunately don't have my hard drive with all my footage currently with me, but I will try my best to make that work. But today we're here for something completely different, and that is a little series on my channel that I want to start. And I was thinking for a long time how I would call this series, and I ended up calling it Growing Roots. And that has a reason. I'm currently, since like a little while already, I'm actively trying to change my mindset and to be super aware of what I consume and what it does with me. And that is why I decided to share like recent reads, like books that I read or articles that I read, movies that I watched, documentaries, Netflix series, whatever it may be, and also people that I follow online that have inspired me lately or that gave me a lot of stuff to think. And yeah, that just shifting my mindset into the hopefully right direction. A quick disclaimer, since this is the first video of this series, I will not include like every category there is in every video, obviously. It is based on what I have consumed and if I think it is worth talking about and sharing with people, and in this way also promoting it, because even if you make a rant review about something that you didn't like, it's still advertisement somehow, because you're talking about something, you know. So yeah, rambled enough. Let's get started with my first episode of Growing Roots. The first category is books. Yay! I love books. There's a reason I was a booktuber a while ago. And the first book I want to talk about is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This is a super beloved series of novellas that I feel like YouTube talks about non-stop. This is why I've put it off for a long time, even though it is like fantasy-esque and is said to have like an amazing diverse cast of characters, and everybody is saying it's absolutely brilliant. And I just put it off because I was so skeptical because of the hype, because often when a book is so hyped up, you're being let down when you finally read it. But at the end of 2020, I read the book finally, and it blew my mind. It was one of the very few 5-star reads of 2020 for me. I absolutely adored the story. It was super quick. Obviously, it's very short, but it's also very easy to read. And I just love the characters so much, and I can't wait to read the next book. The second book I would like to talk about is A Mind Spread Out on the Ground by Alicia Elliott. And this is a collection of essays, which I usually never read. I don't like to read essay collections. I don't know. Usually they just don't do it for me, and I just don't like the format that much. Even though I like essays, but well, I just don't like collections. Anyway, this book also is highly recommended, and when I was looking into more books by indigenous authors that I could put on my list, this one was like on every single list. This was everywhere. And it is a pretty recent release, and yeah, Alicia Elliott talks about her experience as a Native American woman, and it's very uncomfortable to read. It's a very uncomfortable read, especially as a white woman. I'm not American, but still I'm a white woman from Europe. And it's like, ooh, I need to confront myself with things, this kind of read. But it is honestly so good. It opened my eyes. And yes, sometimes it was uncomfortable, like I mentioned, but that is exactly the reason why this was so important. It was also uncomfortable not only because I had to reflect on it, but also because she doesn't shy away. She tells you the truth, how it is. And sometimes the truth for Native folks are really bad because they're still oppressed heavily. And yeah, the book still leaves you with a lot of motivation to change things. So it doesn't like upset you and then leaves you there in this feeling of, oh no, the world is terrible, but more so, oh my god, there's injustice, let's do something about it. And I really appreciated that. And for everyone that is even slightly interested in that topic, I cannot recommend this book enough. The next book is a book that I wanted to show you physically because it is one of the only physical books I had with me on the island, but I had a very strong urge that this book, especially the copy that I had, needed to be shared. So I sent it to my best friend, and I hope she reads it and I hope she likes it. And that book is none other than The Midnight Library by Haig. Haig is my favorite author, and I just love everything he has published that I've read so far, which is quite a lot. And this book was no exception. This book, however, is getting a lot of hype right now, and I have to say it is not my favorite of his works. It is an incredible book, it has an amazing message, which I think a lot of people will appreciate, but for me personally, it was not my favorite of all of his works, but it is still good enough that it made the list today and that I would like for you to check it out. The final book I'm going to talk about in today's episode of Growing Roots is the book by Chidera Eggerue. I hope I pronounced that right. I looked it up before. I hope I didn't butcher it anyway. And it is What a Time to Be Alone. Tasmin from the future here. Just a quick thing that you might know Chidera from her little social media handle, which is the Slum Flower. Jesus, the Slum Flower. I will put it on screen. And that she also has a new Skillshare class all about authenticity. And yeah, she's just an amazing person. Not only her book is amazing, but her whole internet persona and her TED Talks and her activism about saggy boobs and all of these amazing, like she's just incredible. I didn't introduce her well. She's an activist, she's a writer, and she's so many things, and she's incredible. Okay, moving on. This is a book I actually read a while ago. I read that book in the end of 2019 and absolutely loved it. I bought it in Porto in the Lello bookshop, the super famous, beautiful bookshop there. And so it has a very special place in my heart because of that alone, and that it was such an amazing reading experience. And why I want to include this book here is not only because it talks about being alone and gaining self-confidence, especially in the age of social media, which I think is very, very, very important as of right now with the whole pandemic going on and stuff. So I think this is like a very groundbreaking book for everyone. But also I want to talk about it because there's a lot of controversy around it, and I want the book community to step up and say something. And that is that there was a second book by a white feminist, because Chidera is a black woman. And there was another book by a white feminist that basically copied her entire work. It is slightly different. I won't mention the name of the other book here because I just don't want to give it any more platform than there is, but I would really urge you to support Chidera's book because she is in such a bad situation right now because this other woman is now like with a huge marketing team and they're like trying to oppress her, and it's like a full-on crazy story. If you want to know more about this controversy, just follow Chidera on Instagram and you will be up to date in no time because it's like a full shitstorm going on right there. But even if you're not into like the whole drama, even though you probably should check it out because there are a lot of lessons, especially for us white women that claim to be feminists. But besides that, the book is amazing, and I would love for Chidera to see that people still support her. And yeah, I can only urge to check her book out. The next category is documentaries. I absolutely love documentaries. If you have any documentary recommendations, no matter the topic, please let me know down in the comments below what your favorite documentary is, because I'm just obsessed with watching documentaries sometimes. And the first documentary I want to talk about today is Kiss the Ground. I'm trying to find images of the documentaries, but with everything I talk about, I will leave links down below to like documentaries and movies, etc. I will leave the link to the trailers down below and like further information if there is any. So yeah, check that out if you want.
When I first watched the documentary, I was completely blown away, and I was like, oh my god, everybody needs to see this documentary. It's the best documentary ever. It is really, really well done. And I still stand by what I say when it comes to it being a good documentary, and by us needing to rethink agriculture. And I think that this documentary can be a massive inspiration for farmers, but also like the daily people like you and me, to change something and to see certain things in a different light and to try new perspectives and so on. But my initial like, oh my god, best documentary ever was, like put into its place because I sent the recommendation to a friend of mine and I told her, please check it out. And she looked into it and then she did a little bit of research and she sent me a podcast episode of the Plant Proof podcast. I will link that episode down below because I think the documentary and the podcast episode are very, very different and very, very important each on their own. But especially together. And that podcast episode was an interview with the environmental researcher Nicholas Carter, and they talked about the documentary. And that was also very, very interesting, and it put me a little bit into place, it put everything into perspective, and that was really, really, really good. And it also made me realize that the documentary reminded me a little bit of the Stop Coney campaign of 2012. I don't know if anyone still remembers this, but I was like completely grabbed by this concept all those years ago. And that doesn't mean that the topic is not important. It doesn't mean that these things that are said are not true. But like the whole hype around it, the whole marketing around it is a little bit over the top. But the documentary is still absolutely amazing and I cannot recommend it enough. Next up, there is a documentary series, and that is the Street Food series on Netflix, which I absolutely love. It is such a feel-good series about food and street food sellers and their stories, and there are such touching emotional stories. And I think, if I remember correctly, there is not a single white person in the entire series, which I really appreciated because the first season was set in Asia and the second season was set in South America. And basically what they do is they go to different countries or cities and introduce like street food sellers that are like famous for their food, and they introduce the food and the people, and it's like so amazing and it's so heartwarming and it makes you so hungry. One podcast that I really, really enjoyed lately is the For the Wild podcast. And I will link you an episode down below, which is the episode that I discovered this podcast with and that absolutely blew me away, that I absolutely loved. And it was the episode Growing the Planthropocene with the host Ayana Young and her guest, which was Dr. Natasha Myers. And it is such an interesting concept of saying, okay, we are living currently in the Anthropocene. I think some of you are aware what that means, but it's basically the human age. And what Dr. Natasha Myers is trying to do is rethinking how we will move forward. Not to say like, okay, the Anthropocene is going on and we just adapt it and try to save the planet and try to solve climate change, but to say like, no, we're going even a step further and we're building the Planthropocene, the age of the plants, which is a mind-boggling concept to me. And it was such a good episode. In general, the entire podcast is amazing, but that episode was the first one, as I said, that I saw from this podcast, and it was absolutely amazing. And for everyone who's a little bit into anthropology or into solving climate change, please check it out. It's super interesting. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is a person that I think you all should follow. And the person I'm talking about is Joshua Kwaku Asiedu. I'm sorry, I'm very sure I butchered this name. There was no way of me finding out how to actually pronounce it, so I'm very sorry. And the Instagram tag is live-to-learn_learn to live. I link it down below with everything else that I mentioned today. And he is building an eco-indigenous village in Ghana with his own 2 bare hands, which is incredible. It is such an amazing concept, and the work he's putting into it is incredible. And he always says like, another day, another challenge, another blessing. And I love this so much. I'm in my mind, I'm constantly stealing this phrase of him whenever I'm like, this didn't work as I planned it. And then I hear his voice inside my head saying like, another day, another challenge, another blessing, you know? Like, he is such a positive person. The vibes from his Instagram account are so positive and vibrant and radiant, and I just love following him and seeing his story and seeing him develop this village and building it together with the locals, but mostly on his own. And he's not shying away to show the hardship and to show how much work it is, while at the same time really having this good energy, dancing all the time, an amazing smile on his face. And his mission is incredible. And I really urge you to check out his account. You will not regret it. I absolutely love it. And the last point on my list for today is one lesson that I have learned. I always want to conclude the videos with a small lesson that I learned, and that is that we do really need community and solidarity and sharing things and empathy. I'm currently in a whole process of trying to figure out what community means to me, how I would community like to look like, what I would like community to look like. I think that's the sentence. And what I have to do to create community and to play my role in it and have a part in it. And I will talk more about this in the future. This video is long enough as it is, but I really, with everything that I'm consuming as of late, I really realized that we do need community, and that this is really what has been missing from our lives in Europe, in Germany, in America, like in the whole Western culture and in the whole city culture that we are seeing all around the world, is really that the thing of community is getting lost. And by community, I really mean like that you feel connected to other people, that you have empathy to other people, that you share whatever you have, your craft, your talents, your skills, your food, whatever it may be, with other people, and that you show up for other people and a greater cause. And yeah, that is a little lesson that I learned recently. So that was my first episode of Growing Roots. Please let me know down below super honestly what you think of this series and of this format. And if you have any recommendations for me, of course, I would love to hear about them. And I hope you found some things to check out. Maybe something to read, something to watch, someone to follow on Instagram. And yeah, I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.